Hey, it's me, your host, Sophia. Just popping in a second to tell you that I have launched a Patreon. I'd love if you join me over there. I'm also going to be releasing some exclusive content, some content with either fewer ads or no ads at all, even maybe some video episodes in the future. There's more things that I'm also hopefully planning on rolling out as the Patreon community grows. So be sure to check it out at patreon.com/beforethechorus, and I'll see you over there. Before a song is released, a record is produced, or a chorus is written, the musicians that write them think a lot. They live a lot, and they feel a lot. Before the Chorus dives into the stories and experiences that shape these artists, and ultimately, the music we hear. I'm your host, Sofia Loporcaro, and this episode's guest is Daisy the Great.
I think the defining characteristic of dreams is that they things change so much throughout them, and you just go with it. You're just going on a journey that moves in a lot of different directions and then brings you back to yourself by the end of it.
Welcome to this week's episode of the podcast, as always with me, your host, Sofia Loporcaro. It is great to be back. I'm sure you noticed I've been a little quiet over the last couple of weeks, which I will explain everything. Basically, I am actually relocating to Toronto, Canada at the end of the summer. So I have just been preparing for this move, and it's been very chaotic. The podcast is not ending. I will be scaling it down to once a month, but again, it's not going anywhere. I could never stop doing Before the Chorus. I love it too much. This does mean that over the rest of the summer, I'm going to try and continue to get episodes out quite frequently, and I'm going to keep things as consistent as I possibly can, but I will give you a heads up if there's any changes or adjustments happening in the meantime. But now that all that has been said, let's talk about this week's guest, Daisy the Great. This was such a fun interview. This whole record is really inspired by dreams and the weird winding paths they take us down, all while we try and process real things that are happening in our lives. And dreams end up being very informative despite being very bizarre. So we kind of follow that path very closely in this conversation about the record. And we also talk about how dreams really taught both of the band members to let go of perfectionism and just really, truly trust the process. I won't say much more than that because, as always, I want to let the conversation speak for itself. So without further ado, this is my conversation with Daisy the Great. You guys have described this album as being somewhat diaristic, if you will, and I was curious to know if during the process of writing it, if you kept dream journals by any chance.
I didn't keep a dream journal specifically, but I did write down things that stuck out to me in dreams and things that felt connected through dreams. And there are a lot of dream worlds on the album. One of the stories that's kind of dream-like is about a time that I was awake, but I went to the dentist and they gave me too much laughing gas, and I went in this crazy place of my brain. But I was awake for it. But yeah, I just was writing stuff down a lot, but not specifically. It's one of my goals to keep a dream journal. One of my best friends keeps a dream journal, and I'm always that's so smart. And especially when you just write it down no matter what after you wake up, and then later he'll look at it and be oh, this is actually connected, even if he didn't realize that in the day. So I'm into it.
Yeah.
I wish I kept a dream journal, but yeah, again, I don't really I feel what I do, I do write down dreams when I remember them in the morning, but I've been doing this thing where I've been having really the last year or so have been having really vivid dreams, and I don't want to forget them, but I'll wake up in the middle of the night from a dream, and then I usually sleep with my partner, and I'll wake up and just like start yelling out the like dream out loud, like to get him to hear it. Uh, and then in the morning I'll be like, "What did I say last night?" And he'll be like, "I have no idea. I was sleeping." But like I just like will like before even saying like good morning or anything, like in the morning, I'll just be like, there was this giant bird, and then I like fell into the I just start like describe I was like, it's like summer camp, but it's a giant building, and I'm there with like my whole band and my family. I just like say the whole thing out loud. Mostly like so I feel like when I say it out loud, I remember it better.
Mm.
That I just like say it out loud in the morning to like have like been words, and then like hopefully later I'll remember to write it down. But that's been my method, which isn't the most efficient method of memorizing your dreams, but somehow I put it out into the
Yeah.
universe.
Yeah, so basically your partner is your non-consenting dream journal.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Exactly, amazing. They didn't ask for it, but
It's somewhere in the ear canal.
there you go. This is where it's all stored. It's fine. It works.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always find it interesting, like, when I have a really vivid dream and it almost feels like a bizarre remix of, like, everything that's been sort of recently either happening in my life or on my mind, and then, like, two very unrelated things just sort of end up mashed up in a dream, and
Yeah.
it's sort of wild. It's like your subconscious just, like, throwing a bunch of shit into the same place.
Yeah, the worst dream is like when you're on your phone in your dream. Like I have dreams where I'm just like seeing stuff on my phone, and like I think I had one last night because I woke up with like these like other bands like show posters in my head that don't exist. That like and like music videos and stuff, and I was like, was I scrolling on Instagram
In your
in a
dream.
dream last night? And I was like, these show posters are good ideas. I'm gonna steal them. I had this dream of like this band with like a kind of like comic book shirt thing. I've been making like a ton of merch recently, so I think that's what I'm dreaming about.
That makes sense.
And I was like, this is cool. I'll do like a comic book like shirt with like Kelly as like Archie comic style or something.
Nice.
But anyway, that yeah, sometimes I have dreams where I'm just like literally on my phone, and I'm like, that was a waste of dreaming, I think.
I had a dream a few days ago where I went to bed. When I was going to bed, I was like, I think I'm dehydrated, but I don't want to get up. So I'm just gonna go to bed. And then I had a dream that me and Minna were at Benet's house, and Benet is an artist that just opened for us on tour.
So actually, Benet is going to be one of my next guests.
Oh, nice.
Hell yeah.
Well, I didn't tell him this, so you're welcome to tell him. But
Okay.
in my dream, we were at Benet's house, and then there was like a vase of like old roses, and I was like, I need to drink this water. And then everyone was like, you can't drink that. And I was like, I need it bad. And then I drank the rose, like the like moldy old roses water. And then I immediately woke up and was like, hello, I need to drink water in real life. So I had to go get water. That's the most like vivid life. Like it was really visceral to me. It was really connected.
Yeah. I remember once when I was really, really young. I don't remember how old I was, but I had a nightmare, and all I remember from it was that, and again, I had to be like either 10 or younger. Like this was very much like child dream, but all I remember was that the like witch from the Narnia movies was in it, but for some reason she had the Grinch's face.
Whoa.
Yeah. And I remember in the dream feeling someone, I think it was like her or something, she like tapped me on the back of the head, and I woke up to feel like a tap on the back of my head, and I just like shot up, and it was just probably like it's a psychological
Scary.
thing, but I remember as a child that being the most like terrifying thing on the planet.
My like earliest memory is a dream that I have a dream in my head that was in a crib, and I have this vivid memory that I know is a dream, or it was magic that happened when I was a baby. But I was like, I used to sleep like when I was really young, like 3 and under. My parents had this like really small apartment, and they had this like big kind of hallway that was my room that they like painted like cute. And they left their door open, and I like my crib was like right in the like doorway basically, and they had a big painting of a cat on the wall. And I remember like being a baby, like looking through the like crib bars and the cat coming out of the painting and like coming at me. And that's like my first memory ever.
That's terrifying. That was your first memory. That sounds traumatizing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And how do you feel? No, I'm kidding. This is going to turn into like a weird, like Freudian, like therapy session where we analyze dreams. No, yeah, dreams are weird. Which I feel like, I mean, you know, obviously there's a reason we're talking so much about dreams because they're the backbone of this record. And, you know, one thing that, I mean, just from the conversations we've just had now, like, I found myself thinking like dreams are sort of this strange mix of comical, terrifying, and then of course like oddly revealing. And given that and like the way that dreams tend to feel, how did you find that the feeling of dreams shaped the sound of the record?
That's so interesting. I think in a way, it opened the door and just kind of let us give ourselves permission to kind of do whatever we felt like we wanted to do and let it shift. There's a song on the record called Dream Song that specifically like shifts a lot. And that was so fun to write. But I think we took that feeling into the rest of the record and like let it have big shifts and like a ton of dynamics within songs and let each world like exist in its own place. And then afterward, we kind of like figured out how they're all connected. But while we were writing, we were kind of just like letting whatever was in our heads like come out and live. And that was really exciting to be able to kind of create without like putting it in any type of box.
Yeah. I think like the defining characteristic of dreams is that they like things change so much throughout them and you just go with it. Like the I feel like you're like walking next to some like I'm walking next to somebody who's Kelly, but Kelly is not Kelly. Kelly is like my mom. Like suddenly like the character of Kelly becomes my mom, and I've believed it the whole time and I don't question it. And I feel like that is kind of the like I feel like having like major like sonic like shifts and theme shifts and like the like feeling that you're just like going like on a journey that like moves in a lot of different directions and then like brings you back to yourself by the end of it is kind of what we wanted to do with the record. I've been having a lot of like lucid moments in dreams where like I'll be having a dream and then I'll be like, wait, I would never do that. And then I'd be like, wait, what? This is a dream. I gotta get back to my bed. And then I would like slowly find my way back to like my like resting position. But I think that like Kelly said, it freed us up to kind of explore like whatever like sounds and genres and the like production quality that like we wanted to. And to make it feel pretty raw and real at the same time. So all of the like music starts in a kind of just like full band like basic, and then we built like dream worlds around that, but we wanted to keep like the vocals and the instruments like feeling like real and tactile and raw as well. But yeah, mostly in the themes I think is where it connects to dreams.
Yeah. There's something you said just now that I liked, where the idea of coming back to yourself. And I pull that up because the record loops. And I almost wonder if that's sort of to symbolize that.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think also like in going to all these spaces, I do think there is a really strong thread that you can feel of like the people in it, which also feels like dream space to me of like when I'm in a dream and it's crazy, I still sometimes I even feel like more connected to myself in the kind of like chaos space. And then I think that is also how I feel listening to the record, that like even when it's two different vibes between songs. Like I feel like you can really feel the personal experience that's kind of like the quiet thing inside of the, everything else that's going on, but I always feel really connected to like the soul within the big stuff too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and the first song and the last song are the most kind of like reflective songs I think in the record. And the first song is like like facing yourself on a bad day, and like kind of centering yourself after getting completely like lost in your head. And it starts with with the loop that ends the record as well. And the last song I feel like is more like you're reflecting on like how you interact with someone else, that like or like how you project and like put things onto other people, that like is more, that has to do more with you than them. And like like letting that go and letting that out by the end of the record, and then you can start the record over and listen to it like with that perspective.
Yeah. Yeah. I kind of like that. It's almost like there's this idea that, you don't just learn a lesson and then move on from it. You almost kind of have to be retaught the same lesson, but you get to
Yeah.
relearn it with new perspective every time.
Totally. That's a
Yeah.
good point.
In the record as well, I feel like the last song is a more difficult thing to face about yourself. Like it's kind of an ugly side that you're dealing with. And throughout the other songs, like there's a lot about facing your fears and like taking these big feelings and like facing the unknown and finding bravery and whatever. And I think it feels really interesting to me to close the record by like using that bravery to like continue to look at yourself and like find
Mm.
something that's still challenging. It's like not all like now it's perfect now that I'm brave. It's kind of like
No, yeah.
you go through these things and then they still exist and you're just like coming towards them with more wisdom and the
Yeah.
ability to see.
'Cause
But
it's
yeah, it
super
still
brave.
exists.
Yeah, it's super brave to be like, wait a second, I'm like being mean. Like, and like to like put yourself in a like space where you're like, you know, yeah, I feel like it's super hard to like realize that like you have like in a space where you feel like you've been like wronged, like realizing that you're actually like kind of being mean and like putting something on someone that they don't deserve. Uh, and like saying, I don't know, turning them into a monster or something when it's like really you that like needs to take a look at it. That does take the most bravery, I think.
Mm. I agree. I think that shame and guilt are two of the hardest emotions for people to face. And I think we've all watched both what happens within ourselves or within other people when they don't face that shame and the costs that it leaves for those who are affected by it. Sometimes that's almost even worse than like the initial harm. It's the fact that you won't even like face it, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that so I think that's to your point, that's a very brave thing to face. And I'm glad that you're kind of showing that, bravery needs to continue to be a tool. It's not just like this big shiny thing at the end of the album.
Yeah.
Yeah. Going from there, I'll often, when I'm looking at records, sort of group certain songs into themes. And one thing, I kind of titled this section, The Grass is Greener, and I put Ballerina, Ladies Exhausted, and Everywhere in it. And the reason I put them there, and, I always love to like present this to whoever I'm talking to and then be like, if this is accurate, amazing, tell me why. If it's full of shit, equally amazing, tell me why, you know? But I got a sense that there was a lot of, on these songs in particular, a feeling of comparing oneself to other people or feeling like your goals are always just out of reach and like the goalpost just keeps moving as life goes on.
Totally. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's completely accurate. I think that
That's
well, that also has to connect to like the worlds that you build, and like I feel like everywhere really encompasses that. Everywhere is based on a quote from Gossip Girl.
love that. I love that.
There's a moment where like Chuck tells Jenny like um the world that you want like only exists from the outside. And then I don't know the exact quote, but it's like once you're inside of it, like it doesn't exist. And I feel like that's the like it's easy to see when you're so far away. The closer you get to it, the bubble fades and nothing is left but everything you made up in your head about the better days. That's the that's
Yep.
the chorus of the song.
Oh, I know. It's in my notes.
But I think that like is yeah, like that is another dream world where you're like when you want something so bad and you see it exist, especially like in like all of the virtual worlds that exist now, you can like really feel like left out of something or that like you're not enough or that like there's like everyone's doing it right except for you. Um, and like yeah, once you like start to reach those things that you want or like get closer to the facade of it, it's like you're like, "Oh, I feel the same." And like it doesn't change any. I mean, I feel like the way to like progress in this life is to have like genuine relationships and friendships and like be yourself because if you do everything to get close to something that you don't feel a part of, you're not going to feel a part of it when you get close to it because the thing that makes you feel like a part of something is community and feeling like accepted for who you are within things. And I think that it's so easy to feel like I feel like another thing that's in the record is that like the fine line between like comparison and like inspiration and then like what are your like when you get inspired by something what what is the inspiration rooted in and is it inspiration or is it like um imposter syndrome or like self-deprecation, you know? And I think that like that is a question that moves throughout the album and I think is like I mean not to like bring it to another song, but that is what Sue Me Alice is about is like you have this inspiration, you get close to it, and then you feel like you've like left yourself somewhere, um, like trying to get this thing that like doesn't exist except for how you've put it in your head. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
That makes me think of a couple things. One, the line on Ballerina that says, "Do I want to be a perfect party person filled with tears?" Which really jumped out to me. That weirdly made me feel like I was back in high school again because I feel like that's the exact mentality that I had. I was like the weird kid for like the first couple years of high school, and I'd always look at all the popular girls and be like, "They're so pretty, but I wonder if they're actually happy," and
Yeah.
it just, yeah, it made me think a lot about that. And then also to your point with everywhere, like I wrote it out as like romanticizing the future to kind of add on to what you're saying. Like I always feel like as people, we imagine like, oh, if I move to this place or I do this thing or once I get to this point, it's going to be amazing. And we always have this very like rosy version of it in our mind. But the thing is like our shit comes with us no matter where we go, you know? And
Yeah.
so yeah, I just thought that was really interesting. And again, I really liked the way that you phrased this idea of like when you're far away, you can see it, and the closer you get in, it's like almost like, again, all the rosiness of it just sort of disappears, and then it doesn't feel like a dream anymore.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
It's also what happens when you like learn more about the world and stuff. Like it takes more like conscious effort to like find the magic and the dreaminess and things and like, like you could go on a trip to Europe and it's like it won't feel the same as you did when like if you did it when you were like I don't know, I was just thinking about like New York when I was a kid and like the first time I went to New York and like how like crazy it was to me. And like a lot of it was just like having never seen anything before, and like I think, when you like find secrets in little neighborhoods and stuff, like you can still like access that part of yourself, but it is harder to like find like daily magic when like you've been kind of jaded by life.
Yeah. For some reason, this is reminding me there's this like random SNL sketch from God knows how many years ago. Adam Sandler was in it, and it's like an advertisement for like tours of Italy for middle-aged people.
Oh my God.
And and there's a bit where he's kind of like saying like here's what we can do and here's what we can't do. And he's like, we can take you to a beach in Italy. We cannot make you feel comfortable in a bathing suit
Yeah.
while on the beach in Italy. It's like we can take you to a beautiful place. We cannot, your problems will not go away when you get to Italy. Like, you know,
Right.
it was kind of the vibe. This is kind of what this is giving in a much more profound and less SNL way.
It's exactly like
It's
that.
Adam Sandler.
Listen, this is like the philosophical way of saying that. And I think again, there was a weirdly profound point made by SNL during that sketch. So hey, again, we don't leave ourselves behind wherever we go.
Totally.
The rest of who we are comes with us. Going from here, I called the next section Existential AF because I write things apparently like a Gen Z child. I don't know why. But for this one, I put Dream Song, Swinging, and Rest of My Life. And also, funny enough, the last two interviews that I've done have also been about records that have felt deeply existential. And I don't know if it's maybe an age thing. Like, I'm guessing, like, both myself, you guys, and, like, my previous guests were probably all around similar-ish ages, like late 20s to early 30s, which is, you know, a very existential and transient time. But I feel like a lot of these themes of like wanting to know if you're going to be okay, you know, hoping the future is going to be better, even stuff like dealing with loss has like weirdly come across like the last three records in a row that I've talked to people about. And I guess I'm wondering if it's more of just like a sign of, again, the age that we're at, or maybe just, and this is maybe a big question, but we're also just in very existential times, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's funny that, and you're right, to put Rest of My Life with Dream Song and Swinging, because Dream Song and Swinging are so like in this weird brain space, and Rest of My Life feels like something so quiet, but they're totally in the same like sentence. Um, or maybe not quiet, but something that feels like held, like it feels like holding like a little bird. Um, but yeah, I think part of it is definitely age. Part of it is also, I think, like change, or in ways like lack of change. But I think the way you have big expectations, like I almost think of Dream Song as like Dream Song is about a dream space, but the way that like things are changing because it's inside of the dream, we were able to experience what it would be like to experience change with no fear and with like just going with it. And it was a very enlightening song to write because we were just like, what if there's no rules and we're not like the chorus is basically like, I am doing all this like crazy stuff is happening around me and I'm not scared and I like feel capable. And
And it doesn't feel
swinging,
complicated.
yeah, it doesn't feel complicated, and like the dream space of that like allows for that. And then in swinging, I feel like there is change that is scary, and you are not in a dream, you are at the dentist. But you're experiencing change and unknowing, and it feels really overwhelming.
And you're like yelling out for help, but no one
Yeah.
can hear you.
Like it's like alone and it's changing, but also like within that change, like part of that
You're like,
does
"It's
feel
crazy."
static. No, but what I was gonna say is like you're stuck somewhere too. So it's like it is a change from what it was, but it's like somewhere where you do feel like you're stuck there and you like can't get out of it no matter what, and no one is there to help you. So it's also partially that. But then in Rest of My Life, it feels like you're sitting in your room asking those same kind of questions. And the real, like, bare bones version of it is like, am I gonna be okay given like all these possibilities, given all these things? Like, why do things happen in this way? And like, when they happen, will I be okay? And will I be like not alone? And will I like have this? It's not even necessarily like a huge goal. I think it's literally just like, will I be I don't even really know if it's happy, but it's like, will I be like good?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, like
Also, like it's a lonely song, but it's the setting of it is you're like laying next to somebody, like within like that lonely feeling, and like that like I feel like it's also rest of my life is like while you're in time with somebody, like knowing that like at the end of the day, like you are you and they're them, and like that like will you want to know me for the rest of my life? Like yeah, but maybe not, you know, like those the way that people like get so close to you like physically and emotionally, and then like for whatever reason like sometimes they're not there anymore. uh that's a huge existential feeling and like a fear of change that yeah I feel like. And it's interesting too that it's like rest of my life, I mean dream song swinging and rest of my life kind of when they show up in that order, because it gets more and more kind of like I feel like they're close to a person or something.
yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting what you just said because the next group of songs that I put together were Lemon Teeth, Bird Bones, and initially Sue Me Alice, but I think it was a little different than what I initially thought because
Mhm.
you talked about the idea of getting some, like, there's that, you know, horrible unknown of life. Like, sometimes you get close to a person in some form and then for some reason they're no longer in your life for a variety of reasons. And, like, this, again, these songs do get into some heavier territory, but I thought it was interesting this idea of either dreams or sort of like a dream-like way of looking things as a way to process different forms of grief, whether that be like the literal loss of someone or just the end of a friendship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, yeah.
Yeah.
I think that those songs too, like part of the record is looking at relationships and like how you exist with someone else. And I think Sue Me Alice belongs there too, because it to me is like also I think it can be interpreted in different ways, but I feel like the version that I'm running with right now feels like you want that person. Like there's something about Alice in that space where like you want to be Alice or you want Alice's attention or you want like there's something where you're like I need this from someone else because I'm not getting it from myself. And then it's kind of the process of reckoning with like I'm turning this person into something so that I can like gain or like feel better or be feeling like right or important or like valuable in some way. But like when I realize that I'm doing that, like what am I left with then? And I think it shows up in different ways. Like with Lemon Seeds, it's also about a relationship, but on that side of it, it's almost like I know this isn't really good for me and I'm gonna like learn to let go of something that isn't good for me. But it's really interesting, I think, how it like weaves through those real life situations within the dream spaces and like see how you can see how in one song you like learn to be a little bit more self-assured and then you take that into the into the moment in a more real life example and like see how that side of yourself like plays in reality, and like the push and pull of reality and dream spaces like giving into each other throughout the record is something that I really liked putting together
Yeah.
with the order especially. But
Did you put Bird Bones in the? I forgot the
I
yeah,
did. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
because Bird Bones is losing a friend.
yeah,
And it's like three. I feel like those songs are three different ways of losing a friend, where like you lose a friend, where you make the decision and it's like, you know, the relationship just no longer works. You lose a friend too early and they pass away, and or like you lose a friend because you haven't been treating them like a friend. You've been treating them, even like putting them on a pedestal, and then like getting too like obsessed with that dynamic or something, and that friendship is like no longer genuine or something, or you have to like fix it in some way. Um, yeah, I actually never that that's so interesting that there are, you do kind of like lose three different friends in the song in the album.
Yeah. I think I've also just learned from actually some both like these past two conversations that I've had and just from other like lived experiences that I've had that like grief isn't always only about literal death. You know, grief is, you know, mourning the ending of anything, even if it doesn't end in that specific way. And, you know, I find obviously when we're processing something, dreams sort of manifest whatever we're processing, thus, you know, the way so much of this record is shaped. And so again, I thought like to process something as specific as grief, you know, I thought was this was a really interesting lens to look at that from. Yeah. I think the last thing that I want to say, because there's something you said before. Actually, there's a few things that you said before. So this is very much like a full circle tie everything in a bow moment, I guess, question mark. But it sounds like in many different ways, not just creatively, but personally, this record sounds like it ended up being an exercise in letting go.
Hmm.
And I'm wondering if you would say that is fair.
Yes.
I think that's really fair, and I think it's fair in so many ways. One of the ways that immediately is coming to me is like I personally have dealt with a lot of like perfectionist traits in my life, and I think that like definitely is present in Ballerina and in songs across the record. But in this recording process, I also felt like we worked on this record with Catherine Marks, who
Mm-hmm.
produced, and she is like a huge role model and like amazing. She's an
Yeah,
amazing person.
she's
And
incredible.
yeah, she
Yeah.
really encouraged us to like be raw and let ourselves be seen in the music. And that while we were working with her like felt like so exciting, but I did notice like, oh, my instinct is to have more control. And I don't even really know like if the way that it shifts is like that apparent, but it feels really different to me to let go of like just having the control in general of how you're going to be seen or be like shown or show up in ways. Um and it is spooky. It's also just like the process of being a band in general kind of like brings that to the forefront because you're collaborating with people constantly and like needing to shift and move. And there's something so beautiful about like not forcing anything and just like letting it become whatever it is. And like letting the entity of the music like find its own way without like doing too much to it. And I feel like this writing process was the most contained writing process in terms of like we were knowing that we're making an album and we started writing and we were never like we need to write this song and there needs to be this. Like it was kind of like we're in the room, we're like what's in your head, let's just get it down and then let it be and let that song shift as it needs to based on like what that song is and how it's kind of like coming to us and visiting us and like wanting to be written. So I think there was a ton of letting go
Yeah.
and about like processing letting go also. Like I think it was helpful to write songs like Ballerina throughout the process because you're like I'm thinking about letting go and what that means and like letting certain things that you want to control just not be there and having it be like something that you're facing in the process of making the album and also within the album content is cool.
Yeah.
Like feels like marking a place in time for us or for me.
It's
Yeah.
also like this is our third like full length album, and I think that with that and just being a band for 9 years, like I feel like there's been a lot of like expectations that have like changed or not been like met in the ways that we thought, and I think that making this album felt like the like in a lot of ways like the freest album we could make, because it like we I think just like our like confidence and our like belief in ourselves, like I think has increased in a lot of ways, that like it's like, but it doesn't feel, but it feels like realistic confidence, like where
Yeah.
it's just like it's just like I don't know what like people want, like I don't want to make what people like, I don't know what people want from us, but I know that we are very like capable and awesome musicians, and I wanted to like make a record that just like felt like it was coming from us. And like I feel like that exists within the music, it exists within the visual aspects of the album, and like who we chose to work with and how we chose to work on the album. Like it just felt like, as much as like we let go of control, we also like took hold of confidence and like let ourselves make the record that we wanted to make, without any like this is gonna be like this song, or like this is gonna be like the like whatever. Like I think that we're like, let's just make a really good album that feels like it's coming from our hearts. And I think we let go of a lot of expectations in order to do that.
Yeah.
And we took time, and I think we made an amazing record. I'm really excited about it. Yeah, I feel super like, and lyrically it is about letting go, and it's like, it is about growing up. It's about where we're at. Like we are not like the youngest people in the room anymore, and we're also not the oldest. Like
feel
we're
that.
like just chilling. And I think that that's like really, I feel like so many people are at that place, especially after like this pandemic, and like going through like sort of the most like formative like going through your early 20s and like mid 20s, like during a time where like you can't see anyone, and then like coming out the other side like older and like with a lot of people younger than you, like it does change how you feel. And like I think that it just like you have to like, and the world is different, like the world is like crazy, and like a lot of bad things are happening, and like the way that you can't like exist fully like you used to, because you know too much. And it's good that you do, and it's good to know things, but like you can't really like approach things with the like ignorance and whimsy that you might have had when you were younger. And then you have to be the age that you are, the person you are. And I think you have to let go of those like more bitter feelings towards like losing something, and be where you're at, and like be grateful for where you're at, and kind of use what you've got.
The Rubber Teeth Talk is available now wherever you normally get your music. This podcast is hosted, edited, and produced by myself, Sofia Loporcaro, and the artwork is by Meg Wilford.